So it's the middle of April, and if you're anything like me, your kale is going to be going to seed. And my kale looks like this at the moment in the back garden. It's still providing a fairly useful leaf harvest, and of course we're harvesting the flowers, but it's coming to an end, and I need to clear the beds pretty soon, you know, within the next week or 2 weeks, to get the summer crops and the autumn crops planted. So what to do about the kale crop, because most of my kale is up on my little grow shelf at the moment and it's little tiny seedlings. Well, what I do, and it works beautifully for me, is I start kale in January, and I start it under grow lights. Everybody knows who watches this channel that I make a lot of use of grow lights, and I plant it out kind of about the beginning of March under a little low tunnel, and I'm just taking the low tunnel off now and swapping it for a mesh tunnel. So I'm going to show you what the kale looks like now, and I'm going to show you some of the other alternatives as well that provide a good brassica crop at this time of year. As I say, the kind of middle of April to about probably the end of June really is the kind of what they call the hungry gap, and it's the hungry gap in part because a lot of brassicas are going to seed during that period and the new crops are not quite ready. So it's the 18th of April, and I just this morning took the low cover off this bed, and this is the kale bed, and we'll take a look underneath this mesh cover in a minute. And this is one of the early flowering brassica beds, so we've got cauliflowers and calabrese in here. Some of those we've already harvested, and some of those will be harvested in May and very early June. And although we have a lot of beautiful purple sprouting broccoli right now, honestly within 1 or 2 weeks this will all be gone, and that's where early calabrese and cauliflowers really come in. I have been harvesting calabrese for a while, and these are the early cauliflowers, and they're not far away now, as I say, late May, early June. But this video is really all about kale, which is an absolutely glorious crop. It's kind of a mundane crop. People don't think very much about it, but we think it's amazing, and it's so versatile, so many different colours, so many different tastes and textures. And right now I'm growing dwarf green, which is just an ordinary run-of-the-mill green curly kale, but so welcome at this time of year despite its mundaneness. Next to it is, I think this is scarlet or sympatica, I can't remember which, they're very similar, and this is not mundane, this is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Just look at the colouring on this. So this is a real delight. And then next to that we've got another beauty. This is Dazzling Blue, named for the actually beautiful purple ribs. And what you notice here maybe is that this looks like it's going to go to seed, and it is, and that is kind of the price you pay for growing kales early. They will also go to seed early. I don't really mind that at all, because I just want this bed to be harvested really hard over that period, that hungry gap period. So that kind of late April, May, early June period, and then I'll get this bed replanted in June and we'll get another great harvest out of it. So down here we've got another beauty, Black Magic, just not quite your run-of-the-mill Tuscan kale, darker green than often you see, and really great in the British climate. So I love this one. And then I actually got a few red cabbages here. Now obviously these won't be ready in late April, but I'm hopeful that they will be ready by maybe as early July, and we'll just have to see how those do. It's a bit of an experiment for me. And then, as I said, down there, lots of calabrese and cauliflowers. Mentioning that I always take the opportunity to interplant into all of my brassica beds because the spacing is quite generous here, and I've just got radish in here, but turnips do pretty well as well. And that mesh tunnel that I've just moved over the kale has just come from this crop, which is the early Brussels sprout crop. I absolutely love Brussels sprout leaves. They're my absolute favourite, and they provide just an amazing continuous harvest over such a long period of time. This crop is really going to be feeding us through the hungry gap up until the main crop Brussels sprouts, which are at the moment just little seedlings, are ready in about July time, and then we'll start harvesting just 1 or 2 leaves off each Brussels sprout plant all the way through until winter, when we start harvesting the buttons off the stem. So of course you could be just eating spring cabbage, which is a great crop actually in the hungry gap, but you can't just live on cabbage alone. So I do have a little guide that talks about growing brassicas all year round, and also another one that talks about specific individual crops like growing Brussels sprouts really early for a leaf harvest and a summer harvest of button sprouts, and also obviously about kale and loads of others about growing cauliflowers and calabrese and all of the different brassicas to get a really nice long extended harvest and a continuous year-round supply of brassicas. So if you want to take a look at that, I'll put a link to those guides down in the description. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.